A warm breeze stirred through Baton Rouge this past Wednesday night, but inside the family worship center, the air was heavy, thick with prayers, memories, and the unspoken truth that time is no respecter of even the mightiest ministries. The name Jimmy Swaggart has been a lightning rod in American Christianity for over half a century, echoing through living rooms, revival tents, and the flickering glow of late-night television screens across the globe. Now, as the famed 90-year-old televangelist clings to life after a severe heart attack, his family finds themselves standing on a trembling bridge between past glories and an uncertain tomorrow. If you've ever watched Jimmy Swaggart pace the stage, Bible in hand, voice cracking with fervor as choirs swelled behind him, then you know his sermons weren't just performances. To millions, they were lifelines. Now those same millions wait for updates, holding their breath as a family long bound together by faith faces one of the hardest crossroads any family can imagine. And before we go deeper, I ask you, if stories of faith, resilience, and the human struggle touch your heart, don't just read this and walk away. Click subscribe. Join our growing family. Let's travel these winding roads together. This week, Donnie Swaggart, the only son of the aging preacher, stood before his congregation in the same pulpit where his father thundered for decades. His voice, though steady, betrayed the cracks of a son forced to confront the end of an era. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't hide behind platitudes. Instead, he told the faithful exactly what they feared. We are facing the end, he said, eyes scanning the pews full of people who have watched him grow up in the long shadow of his father's legacy. Unless there's a miracle from the Lord. And isn't that what the Swaggarts have always leaned on? Miracles. When Jimmy rose to prominence in the 1970s and 80s, his brand of fiery Pentecostal revivalism was a phenomenon. Millions tuned in to watch him preach repentance and redemption. His voice crackled across AM radio, into black and white TVs, and later through the crisp HD clarity of modern cable. But Jimmy Swaggart's story was never simple. His ministry has danced between astonishing grace and gut-wrenching scandal. His fall from grace so public it could have shattered lesser men. Yet somehow, the man kept preaching. Even after being defrocked by the Assemblies of God for moral failures that filled tabloid headlines for years, he built his own network from the ground up, the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, proving that faith, at least in this family, is both a lifeline and a legacy. It was Donnie, along with his own son, who found Jimmy unconscious at home, a scene no child is ever truly ready for, no matter how old they get. June 15th. They will remember it. They rushed him to the hospital. Doctors did what they could. Machines beeped their steady warnings. And now, 4 days, the family has sat vigil by the bed of a man who, for better or worse, changed the face of American Christianity. As the days crawl forward, so do the questions. What happens next? Who steps up? Who decides how this ministry, a machine powered by donations, broadcasts, and the kind of brand loyalty that many corporations would kill for, will keep spinning when its founding figure can no longer stand at the pulpit? These are the questions weighing heavy on the Swaggarts as they call in every branch of the family tree for a Friday meeting that will no doubt echo with memories, regrets, and, above all, hard decisions. In his update to the congregation, Donnie painted the picture with raw honesty. We have called all the family to come into town, he said, voice tight but unwavering. The grandkids that haven't been here, and Joanna and Cliff for a family meeting on Friday. It's a tough time. Those words lingered in the sanctuary even after he stepped away. For decades, Jimmy Swaggart's presence has been the anchor around which this family, this church, and their global media ministry revolved. Now, they're all staring at a future without the man whose name adorns every broadcast signal beamed from that modest Baton Rouge studio to living rooms in Uganda, rural Mississippi, and everywhere in between. Outside the family worship center, life goes on. The warm Louisiana sun rises and sets. Cars hum along Bluebonnet Boulevard. But inside those walls, time has slowed, and decisions loom like thunderclouds over the Mississippi River. You might wonder, why does this story matter to you, to anyone outside those church pews? Because the Swaggart saga is bigger than one preacher's mortal fight. It's about what happens when faith, family, fame, and failure all collide under the harsh lights of the public eye. It's about the millions who grew up with Jimmy's voice as their soundtrack to Sunday mornings. It's about an aging generation of believers who remember the glory days when revivals packed stadiums and miracles seemed as common as Sunday supper. It's about forgiveness, too. Jimmy Swaggart's downfall in the late 1980s is infamous. A tearful confession broadcast to millions after being caught with prostitutes. For some, that moment ended any notion that he was a true shepherd of souls. For others, it made him human, flawed, fallen, but still clinging to grace. And it begs the question, in an age when megachurch scandals fill our feeds almost weekly, did Jimmy Swaggart's refusal to disappear say more about him than his sins ever could? Donnie Swaggart now carries the mantle, whether he wants to or not. His voice, calm but grave, urged the congregation to keep praying for a miracle, but also for wisdom as they gather to decide what the future holds for a man and a ministry so intertwined they might as well be one. An official update posted to Jimmy Swaggart's Facebook page pulled no punches either. The days ahead will surely be difficult, and we humbly ask that you continue to uplift Brother Swaggart, the Swaggart family, and Jimmy Swaggart Ministries in your prayers. They asked, too, for privacy. Something that's always been in short supply for this family whose name has been both beloved and reviled across America's religious landscape. While the details of Friday's meeting will likely remain private, one can imagine the conversations. Who will preach? Will Sun Life Broadcasting pivot or hold the line? How do you honor the legacy of a man whose name built a multimillion-dollar ministry but whose human failures almost destroyed it? How do you console grandchildren forced to say goodbye to their patriarch, while also picking up the torch he leaves behind? These aren't just questions for one family. They're questions for any community built around a charismatic leader. Because whether it's a church, a company, or a grassroots movement, eventually the founders fade away, and the next generation must decide what parts of the old story still matter and which chapters they must write themselves. Some will say Jimmy Swaggart should have stepped down years ago, that his time had passed long before this cardiac arrest turned whispers of retirement into a glaring reality. Others will say the man should have preached until his last breath, and in many ways, he did. Even as his health faltered, Jimmy Swaggart Ministries kept broadcasting, kept singing the old hymns, kept preaching about sin, salvation, and second chances. Maybe that's what makes this moment so raw. When a ministry is built on the idea that miracles can happen at any second, how do you prepare for the miracle that never comes? And yet, even as the days grow harder, hope flickers. Donnie's voice trembled but never cracked when he spoke of a miracle. He knows the odds. So does the congregation. But hope, stubborn as a deep southern summer, lives on in the hearts of the faithful. They have seen bigger mountains moved, they'll tell you. They have watched their leader rise after public disgrace and rebuild his life from the ashes. Who's to say it couldn't happen again? As this chapter closes, a new one waits to be written. Donnie Swaggart and his family will sit down Friday and make choices that echo far beyond the walls of that sanctuary. Their decisions will shape what happens next for the Family Worship Center, the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, and the millions who still tune in hoping to hear a word that soothes their battered souls. So here we are, watching, waiting, praying with them. And as we watch, we are reminded that no empire, no matter how mighty, can outrun the ticking clock forever. But maybe, just maybe, the faith that built it can carry its torch a little further. If you found yourself drawn in by this story, if you felt the tug of old hymns and the ache of human frailty and fierce family bonds, don't just close this page and move on. Subscribe. Join this community that believes every story, even the messy ones, matter. Let's walk through this together. Let's see what tomorrow brings for Jimmy Swaggart's family and the millions who have knelt in prayer at the sound of his voice. And if you're so inclined, say a prayer tonight, not just for a preacher on a hospital bed, but for all of us standing at our own crossroads, waiting for a miracle, whispering into the dark that hope never truly dies.